Hello everyone, welcome to Grand Line's online salon. I'm Rama, a communications coach from Grand Line and your host for today. Introducing my partner, Miss Florence, who is also the founder of Travel Bag Philippines, a tour company. Miss Florence wears many hats. She is also an HR, training, and business consultant.
Hello, Ms. Roma. Yes, and every Saturday, your online salon host. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to talk about our topic today, Balik Probinsya Program, a permanent fix or a Band-Aid solution.
In this program, we feature several social issues and current events to raise awareness and help the public know more about relevant issues, trends, and topics. Let's begin.
Metro Manila has more job opportunities than other parts of the Philippines because this is the economic capital of the country. This leads people from rural areas to move here in hopes of finding better opportunities. But this continuous movement of migrants eventually led to decongestion. While some found success, others didn't find the same fortune. And now that most companies halted operation due to COVID-19, many became unemployed.
That's a fact, Ms. Florence. Last April, Senator Bongo proposed the Balik Probinsya, Bagong Pag-asa or BP2 program geared towards addressing Metro Manila's congested urban areas by encouraging people, especially informal settlers, to return to their home provinces and assist them in this transition with support and incentives on transportation, family, livelihood, and housing. On May 6, President Rodrigo Duterte institutionalized the program by signing it as Executive Order Number 114. The program, led by National Housing Authority General Manager Marcelino Escalada Jr., is said to receive more than 53,000 applications over the last 10 days after its online application was opened on May 8.
However, the Balik Probinsya trips were temporarily suspended on June 11 when the government decided to prioritize the return of stranded OFWs, students, tourists, and workers. The new program was named Hatid Probinsya. It helps transport people who are unable to return to their provinces due to quarantine restrictions. It's been called a short-term solution, while Balik Probinsya is long-term.
While the intention of Balik Probinsya may be good, it received backlash from certain groups. This started when two of the first batches of beneficiaries tested positive for COVID-19 a week after arriving in the province of Leyte. Both were asymptomatic. The two arrived in town on board buses on the night of May 21. The group of Gabriel publicly announced that they warned President Duterte earlier in May that the program will create a wave of COVID-19 infections due to lack of mass testing.
That's unfortunate, Ms. Roma. Eastern Visayas lawmakers are alarmed that the rapid increase in the number of COVID-19 cases in the region happened shortly after the Hatid Probinsya and Balik Probinsya programs were implemented. The government has the duty to ensure that people returning to their cities and municipalities are free from COVID. Otherwise, it will create more problems in the local level. Also, are our LGUs ready to support those who will be coming back to their provinces? Will there be enough jobs and opportunities for them? Let's start the discussion and see what our speakers have to say.
Let's welcome our first guest speaker, Attorney Arnell de la Rosa. Attorney Arnell is a CPA and attorney at law, a real estate broker, and appraiser. He graduated from Arnell University. He is an independent member of Horse Roland and Company Philippines, a network of professionals and firms in the country. He also provides a wide range of services in accounting, taxation, immigration, civil and criminal litigation, real estate transactions. Again, let's welcome Attorney Arnell de la Rosa.
Also, our pleasure to be joined by our next guest speaker, Attorney Kirsty Jane Balino. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science and a cum laude at University of the Philippines, Manila. She's also a consultant at Commission on Elections and Labor Compliance Officer at ALF and AUSL. She's also a private practitioner in Manila and currently a professor of law at Arellano University School of Law. Welcome to our program, again, Attorney Christy Jane Balino.
Thank you for having me again, and it's good to be back, everybody. I'm looking forward to a fruitful discussion later on.
Thank you, Attorney. So let's begin. There are groups who criticize the Balik Probinsya and Hatid Probinsya programs, saying that they were poorly planned in the midst of a complicated situation. This raised fears in certain regions and provinces where COVID cases increased after some people came back through the Balik and Hatid Probinsya programs without proper testing and contact tracing. So our first question today is, why was the Balik Probinsya program implemented during the pandemic, and how does this differ from Hatid Probinsya? Okay, Attorney Jane, maybe you can answer
Okay.
this.
As to the question as why was this implemented during the pandemic, the timing would seem quite questionable. However, to my knowledge, this has been part of the government's plan long before, like in the 90s or what have you. It was just, there were several factors, maybe in terms of priorities, that impelled the government to make it or implement the same now. It's different from Hatid Probinsya per se, because the Balik Probinsya program is a long-term strategy of the government to decongest, number one, the NCR and the metros, and to boost rural development. The Hatid Probinsya, on the other hand, which is happening right now, is mainly concentrated on the transport of individuals who have been affected by the pandemic. So, strictly speaking, the Hatid Probinsya is not technically a part of the Balik Probinsya program, because the purpose of the EO, or the purpose of the government of the Balik Probinsya program, as I've mentioned, is for rural development. On the other hand, those that have been transported under the Hatid Probinsya program was a means of assistance of the government to those who have been affected by the pandemic.
Is Attorney Arnell available now?
Yes. I'm sorry. My mic was muted a while ago. Yes, I agree with my panyera here, no, that the Balik Probinsya is a long-term strategy of the government. In fact, this is not. This is in fact not. It's not a new program of the government. This has been existing. There's a lot of programs already implemented similar to this Balik Probinsya. And it's not because it was implemented during this pandemic. It's just a mere coincidence, because it was proposed by Senator Bongo during the press conference or a cabinet meeting, wherein the president reported about the status of COVID-19 in the country. It's not really a pandemic, no? But it was just a coincidence. And I think Senator Bongo emphasized this in several press conference. Now, Hatid Probinsya should not be confused with Balik Probinsya. Hatid Probinsya is more of an assistance given to us people, no? Stranded OFWs, basically stranded, affected during this pandemic. So those two programs should not be confused with one another.
Okay. So Balik Probinsya is the long-term program based on the EO, right, Attorney?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. But the Hatid Probinsya is a recent program created specifically for COVID-19.
Yes, essentially.
Yeah. But I think there's a confusion because it seems that Balik Probinsya was first announced also during the after just after the lockdown.
Oh, okay. Can I just say
Yes,
something about
yeah,
that?
please clarify, attorney.
Okay. If you read the executive order itself, there were some reference to the COVID. I think
COVID,
this was
yes.
yeah. So it was just a matter of in its whereas clauses, if you remembered.
Now, for our second question is, does the Balik Probinsya program address the real reasons people migrate to urban areas? Maybe let's start with Attorney Arnell.
The question is, does the Balik Probinsya program address the real reasons people migrate to urban areas?
Yes,
Well, I
Attorney.
believe so because the executive order itself provide for several programs that would address economic reasons why people migrate to the metropolis, no? So included in the short-term programs and medium-term and even the long-term programs under the executive order are creation of employment opportunities. I believe people come to urban areas. It's really because of economic reason for looking for greener pasture. There might be no employment opportunities in the province. That's why they come to Metro Manila in particular. So the executive order, as I've said, contains a lot of several programs that pertains to creation of economic opportunities for the people who might be interested in going back to the provinces.
Thank you so much, Attorney. Now let's also have Attorney Jane.
Thank you, thank you. I partly agree with Attorney De La Rosa. However, my idea is that I, strictly speaking, I don't think it there is much study that has been done in order to implement the Balik Probinsya program. I think in as much as the programs within the EO that would cater to the needs of those who will be going back to the provinces, such as shelter, transportation, and employment opportunities. I think the question is how long would they be able to receive those kinds of things? So does it address the real reasons? I don't think it does because it doesn't provide for a strict timeline. I mean, we have the short term, the long term, and we also have the phases, the immediate phases, the immediate phase. But um, without any timeline, any person or any person who applied for the Balik Probinsya program would be thinking, when will I be receiving the assistance from the government, whether it's for shelter, whether it's for my employment. So at the end of the day, people go to Manila or the metros in order for better opportunities. Not just that, but because of the competitiveness of the industry here, that wherever they go, they could apply and they would have opportunities for employment. So when they go back, I think it would be the same thing. The Balik Probinsya program, I don't think it strictly addresses that problem because of the lack of the timeline. I understand, of course, the constraints of the government agencies involved, that there are other factors to consider, especially now there's COVID, and then we are basically in an economic decline because of the pandemic. So I don't think it addresses squarely the real reasons why people come here. In Manila, there is a sense of urgency for employment. When you go back under this program, I think the question would be, when are you going to be assisted by the government? So there.
I agree with you, Attorney Jane. Well, in connection with livelihood opportunities, how does the government intend to increase jobs and opportunities, livelihood opportunities in the province? Maybe let's start with Attorney Jane.
I think under the EO, several government agencies were tapped, say the DA for agriculture, the NHA for housing, and so on and so forth. This is not, as mentioned in the EO, this is a long-term strategy that they intend to achieve by 2040. So it's a matter of the administration or the whether future or present uh, thrust as to how to implement it. But how do they intend to increase jobs and livelihood opportunities in the provinces? I think it would depend on the resources available, because remember, the Balik Probinsya program has to be consented to by the LGU, because it will be the LGU receiving these individuals. So say an applicant under the program wants to do farming when he goes back, or wants to engage in trade. What if the resources of the LGU are not available? So there is a lot of issues regarding that. So that's why, to my mind, there has to be a pilot of this, or I think there was already a pilot of this, but on a grand scale. The Philippines, or the islands in the Philippines, are very rich in resources. But I think there is a need to identify what resource is available before you receive actual Balik Probinsya applicants into your area, so that you could help them and give them the opportunities or employment opportunities that they need. So thank you.
Yes, that's right, attorney. I guess there are a lot of circumstances that we need to consider right now, especially this kind of situation we're facing as of this moment. May we have also attorney Arnell?
Thank you for that. Um, I agree with my Panyera. The executive order actually is a policy. No? So the problem here, as mentioned by my Panyera, is really on the implementation and the execution of the programs. Whether or not the Balik Probinsya will address the concerns, no, like job creation or livelihood creation, the program itself provides these kinds of program. But as to whether or not the government will be implementing these programs is another question. No. So going back to your question, how do they intend to increase the jobs? Well, I agree with May Panera. It would really depend on the available in the uh, uh, resources, and each region has its own, its own uniqueness. So for example, in Mindanao, mining is prevalent. In Palawan, tourism is a good business. In Ilocos, for example, we have agriculture and tourism. Um, so it will depend as well on what is prevailing industry in these localities. So and of course another issue there would be, is there a matching of the competencies and skills of these individuals versus the opportunities available in the province. So the answer, the bet research done, there, there are researches done on this matter. That's it. No? Again, there's the EO itself provides for the policy. It's up to the national government agencies concerned and the local government to plan and execute the plan. Thanks.
Thank you so much, attorney. Yes, I agree. It depends on the jobs, and the livelihood opportunities depends on the resources for each region. Now, this will be my last question for for this part of the program. Some of those who left the provinces for the cities may no longer even have a place to return to. How will the government persuade these people to go back to their probinsya? Maybe let's start with Attorney Arnell.
One of the issues here being addressed by this Balik Probinsya is to decongest, and one of the targeted beneficiaries are settlers. And so for the government to be able to persuade these people, particularly the informal settlers, to go back to the provinces, is for the government to provide housing facilities for them, and of course without without employment opportunities, they won't be able to go back. So I believe the government should provide these two requirements: employment opportunities and housing facilities for these beneficiaries.
Thank you so much,
Thanks.
attorney. Yes, thank you so much. Now let's also have attorney Jane for this one.
Okay, just to clarify, the Balik Probinsya program is founded on voluntariness. So at the end of the day, you can't force people to go back to wherever or go to wherever unless they want to. But I believe that during the press briefing, they said that the government would be providing certain incentives for people to go back to the provinces. As mentioned by Attorney De La Rosa, there are housing incentives, so on and so forth, and other employment opportunities. I totally agree that in order, just like any person, it doesn't have to be under this program. Any person would go to a place where there's greener pasture. Apart from that, a person would go to another place if there's security. So I totally agree that the government, in as much as the programs that are included in the EO itself sounds good, I think they would have to implement it properly in order to persuade others to go. Because as I mentioned earlier, the lack of timeline for me a bit discourages people, because after you've been sent, for example, the DOTR is in charge of transport. After you've been sent to the province, the next question is, where would you live? I mean, for those who do have relatives and others, that's fine. But for those who have agreed because they have nothing here in the metro, that's quite problematic. So they have to first establish and set an example that something is going on under this program in order to persuade people to actually believe in the program and eventually join the program or the Balik Probinsya program. So there.
Thank you so much, attorney Jane. Absolutely, you're right. Now let's just continue the discussion to the third question with Ms. Flo.
All right, so EO 114 is said to have three phases. In the immediate phase, those who wish to return to their provinces will be given aid, transportation, and livelihood. The mediate phase promises decent jobs, a house and lot, the institutionalization of health and education services, and peace and order. While the final long-term phase includes the strengthening of urban renewal and rural development, as well as incentives for businesses that relocate to the provinces and the creation of a sustainable environment. This sounds very ideal, but our third question is, knowing that our economy is on recession and unemployment is currently very high, how does the government plan to support the provinces in providing jobs and livelihood? So maybe we can also talk about the budget, if you know where the budget for these projects are going to come from. Attorney Arnell, would you like to start? Attorney Arnell or Attorney Jane?
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's start with you.
All right. So how does the government, as I mentioned earlier, the Balik Probinsya program is an effort it's a concerted effort really between the government and the LGUs and some maybe the private sector, because at the end of the day, those who will be implementing it will be at the local level. So as to the budget, actually that's quite what do you call this, very questionable, because as I've mentioned, each LGU has different resources, and in fact there are areas in the Philippines that actually have no resource. So if they were to use the budget that they already have, then it should come from the national budget itself as an addition to the LGUs that have been pinpointed as areas to receive the applicants under the Balik Probinsya program. So as to the question how the government plans to support, in providing jobs, they really have to intensify the LGU in making job opportunities. In the Balik Probinsya, there is a council wherein the members are parts of government agencies. So apart from the LGU support, the government agencies have to be government agencies have to be supported as well. For example, NHA, or the National Housing Authority. How will NHA provide housing if there are no lands in an area that is receiving the applicants under this Balik Probinsya program? So it's really a concerted effort between the LGU, actually the private stakeholders, if there are some, and then the national government. But to my memory, I think there was a mention of in the long run, the agencies that are involved in the Balik Probinsya program will have to come up with their own ways to raise revenue. So I think that's also an issue. Because if there is no solid budget for this, it will be a concerted effort again in terms of raising revenue from the LGU, from the national government or the national agencies that are involved. So there.
Okay. Thank you for that, Attorney. Is Attorney Arnell back?
Yes,
Sir, are you there? Okay.
I agree with my Panyera here, that the success of this program should be um, a concerted effort, a coordinated effort between the local government and the national government. So since it's a budget season for the government this time of the year, no, perhaps they can start planning their specific plans, specific programs that would implement this Balik Probinsya program, and to include the funding requirements in the budget proposals that would be taken up by the Congress this budget season. So, and yes, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Another follow-up question, Attorney Arnell. What are the chances that those sent back during the pandemic, because I think right now, if I remember correctly, they said there are around 50,000 who wanted to avail of the Balik Probinsya program, and some of them were already sent back. But what are the chances that those who were sent back during the pandemic will just fly back after the crisis because of lack of maybe economic opportunities in the provinces?
Well, as long as there's no greener pasture, as long as there are no employment opportunities in the provinces, I believe, and I'm 100% sure, that those who were sent back home during this pandemic will just come back to Metro Manila, either to resume working or look for better opportunities because of lack of opportunities in the province.
I agree. Attorney Jane, do you agree as
Yes,
well?
I totally agree. It's not that difficult to transfer, basically, because say the transportation normalizes and everybody could fly. The moment that anybody, for that matter, would feel that there's nothing there in the provinces for them, they would very well flock again here. There wasn't any provision as to that. There was no agreement say if you were under the Balik Probinsya program, you will forever be in that province. So I think if the government does not do its job in making sure that the programs under the Balik Probinsya would materialize, people would just go back here and all efforts would have been to waste. So it's really a matter of making things very realistic for people. At the end of the day, if you went home under this program, you would expect certain things. As we've discussed earlier, there are certain incentives. So as to their chances of getting back, if they don't get what they were promised, for sure they'd be back here at the in a heartbeat. I mean.
Yes, I agree. I think some people who are taking advantage of the Balik Probinsya program because it comes with free tickets, right? Free
At
airline
this time, I think
tickets.
at this time, because there are government restrictions on transportation, so they'd be giving I think as high as 35,000 for a family who would be going home, something like that. But still,
Mm,
because you went home under this doesn't mean that you're prohibited from going back, which is back to square one again.
exactly. Okay, so I think that answers our third question. Let us now move on to the question and answer. Do we have questions from the audience, Ms. Roma?
Let me check here. I guess we don't have any questions. Oh, I
Okay.
guess
Oh,
this.
I think we have.
Do we have a? I'm checking here.
Wait. Somebody sent a question privately. Wait,
Okay.
let me. Okay. There's a question here. It says, how can a person apply for the Balik Probinsya program? Attorney Jane or Attorney Arnell, would you know how to do it?
Hello.
Yes.
They, they can check at the website of the Balik Probinsya program. There's a website dedicated for this, and there's an application form to be filled up there. The instructions are posted as well in that website.
Hmm. That's correct.
Attorney Arnell, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes. Sorry. Sir, you said website. Which website is it again?
Yeah, the website is balikprobinsya.ph.
Okay.
They can Google it
balikprobinsya.ph.
and it will pop up.
Okay.
Yes.
So just go to that
And there's
website.
also a website. Yeah. There's also a chat board here at the website. I'm looking at it now, and there's a chat support. Perhaps the person who raised that question can talk to uh, a representative from this program. There's a chat support here.
Okay. So just go to balikprobinsya.ph if you want to
PH.
apply. Yeah. Okay. Another question for Attorney Jane. How can the government attract businessmen to start their businesses in rural areas?
Well, I think it's very basic. You provide incentives. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there had been a lot of programs. Say, for example, in Manila, when you hire what do you call this? Senior citizens in your establishment, the city subs what do you call this? Gives you a discount, say, on your government duties or taxes. So I think that's a good way. Um, all we need is a little push. I mean, that's what I'm saying. So if you are a businessman and you see that your government is very supportive to your business in such a way that they provide you with incentives, maybe in taxes, or maybe say to lower the prices, or whatever, to give you an amnesty on land, or what have you. I think it would be very attractive for any businessman to start their business. So it's really about boosting. Yeah, it's really about boosting and motivation, which from the business point of view would be in the form of incentives. So
Right.
there.
Okay. Thank you for that, Attorney. And then we have our final question. Can OFWs avail the program now that many of them lost their jobs abroad? So is this open for OFWs?
I think the requirement would be to those who have been residents here, if I'm not mistaken, Panero, tama ba? I think the requirement is there's a residency or what have you. But at the end of the day, since the application is open or to everybody, that shouldn't stop anyone, even an OFW, from applying, because technically speaking, they would be part of those who have lost either homes or jobs. So I think they may be qualified, but it's just that I am not, I don't remember the technical requirements, but I think there's a residency requirement if I'm not mistaken. So there.
That makes sense. Otherwise, anyone can just apply for it. Okay, so those are the questions from the audience. I'll pass you on now to Ms. Roma for the next part of the program.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Florence. Now for the next part of the program, we'll be having the final messages from our guests and of course from you, my partner. Okay, let's have the first guest for the final message. Let's first have Attorney Arnell for the final message.
Well, I just would like to thank you for inviting me again to this program. And I'm looking forward to more programs in the future with you. Yes, have a nice day and keep safe always. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney. Yeah, we're looking forward for more programs with you. Okay, now let's also have our very gorgeous guest, Miss Attorney Jane.
Okay, again, I would like to thank Grand Line for inviting me for the third time. Suking tindahan na ito, okay? I would just like to say that the pandemic has affected everybody. So more than to criticize, I think we should look at more positive things. Say if there's such a program, if there is any means that we could do to help, for example, or suggest, I think it would be best to help the government instead by making suggestions as simple as that, like, or to join, like my Paniero said, there's a chat room or whatever, just to make this program successful, because at the end of the day we should help each other, especially at this time. And if people would want to go back to their homes, then we should not discriminate. If we are from the provinces receiving those who have applied under this program, then we should not discriminate, but not to welcome them with open arms. I mean, after the quarantine, after the quarantine period, but to be as reassuring that any opportunity would be welcome. So thank you and have a nice day, everybody.
Thank you so much, Attorney. Yes, I guess everyone is missing home, going to the province, and I hope someday I can go home too. Well, anyway, let's also have Miss Florence for the message.
Thank you, Ms. Roma. Will you apply for the Balik Probinsya program?
If I can, I will.
Okay, so thank you so much to Attorney Jane for the third time for being our suke. Soon, I hope you can join us in the studio. And Attorney Arnell, again, thank you so much. This is your second or third time also. So we hope to invite you again in the future. For the Balik Probinsya program, I think it is a well-intentioned program, and something that is, it could be one of the programs to help decongest Metro Manila, but it cannot be the only program, right? But it's a good initiative. It's just that I think it is also closely connected to the economic situation of the country, and unless we have an answer to that, I don't think that businesses will go to the provinces as much as they do in Metro Manila. In fact, I think we need more investments and we need more businesses to open in Metro Manila, especially now that a lot of businesses are closing down because of the pandemic. So yeah, I think this program will work if our economy is doing well. But right now, I think the Hatid Probinsya is more of a band-aid solution that is really needed right now. But as for the Balik Probinsya,
that you learn as much as we did from our speakers, of course, as usual. And thank you so much to our guests for today and to everyone who joined us, including, of course, the technical staff This will not be possible without each of you. And we are looking forward to seeing you again to our next online salon. Thank you so much for watching. And please don't forget to leave a comment, like and share our Facebook page, and make sure to subscribe our YouTube channel, GLCA TV. And now let's also have the thought for today.
Okay, our thought of the day is from Ban Ki-moon, the former Secretary General of the United Nations. He said, "Migration is an expression of the human aspiration for dignity, safety, and a better future." Again, this is Florence.
This is Rama. For now, stay safe, everyone.